Hey, greetings everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Senior Fellow at the Media Research Center. First and foremost, I want to wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas and also a Happy New Year's. But I'll probably get to talk to you before the New Year's. But I want to share with you some thoughts and perspectives about some recent news that really does have the progressive socialist left, well, in another apoplectic meltdown. And that's all because a federal judge just came out and ruled that the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, is unconstitutional.
A surprise ruling from a Texas judge that could put the Affordable Care Act in jeopardy.
President Trump has long promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, and this huge decision gives him the opportunity to do just that.
If the ruling does stand by that Texas judge and Obamacare is overturned, this would affect practically every part of health care coverage in this country and affect millions of Americans.
This would have enormous ramifications for Americans and the healthcare industry.
And now you have them running around and saying this is going to take health care away from people and it's going to be the end of the world, the typical leftist reaction. But let's have a moment to talk about civics, because we need to understand what this federal court judge just ruled. And basically what he said is because of the fact that the individual mandate, and I always think about this, if leftist ideas are always so great, why do they always come with mandates? But anyhow, the individual mandate that was part of Obamacare came along with this tax provision. And if you go back and remember, Chief Justice Roberts made the decision that Obamacare was constitutional, not because it was consistent with the Commerce Clause of our Constitution. He said that it was not. And the Commerce Clause of the Constitution of the United States of America says that the federal government can get involved with and regulate commerce, trade between the United States and other nations, between the other states, and also with the tribal nations. But the federal government does not have the authority to mandate you as an American citizen what private sector commodity you must buy. That is a complete violation of the Commerce Clause. But what Chief Justice Roberts expanded his decision to include was that under the taxation authority of the federal government, of the legislative branch, they could indeed see Obamacare as constitutional. Now, what that means is that we have a system of behavior modification by way of taxation. If you do not buy a certain commodity that the federal government has mandated you to buy, then you can be penalized by a tax. But in the last Congress, they passed a repeal on the tax provision of the individual mandate. So if the tax provision is removed from the individual mandate, which is what Chief Justice Roberts had originally said made Obamacare constitutional, then it cannot be considered constitutional anymore because it is not consistent with the Commerce Clause. What it really means is that a federal government cannot tell a private individual citizen what commodity they should have to buy in the open market. Think about it this way. The ideological agenda of the left talks about climate change, global warming, and all of this. What if all of a sudden they decided that we're going to mandate that every citizen purchase an electric vehicle? And if you don't purchase that electric vehicle, then we're going to tax you for it. That's not something that is constitutional. And that is why the Affordable Care Act was deemed unconstitutional by this federal judge. But never let something as simple as the rule of law or civics get in the way of the agenda of the progressive socialist left. See, for them, they think that their giving you health care is a right that they can bestow upon you. And it's really interesting how back in the Carter administration, when Jimmy Carter with the Community Reinvestment Act thought that every American had the right to own a home. 30 years later, look how well that worked out with the financial meltdown that was traced back into the mortgage crisis. Subprime mortgages, Fannie, Freddie, all of these nefarious activities. The left always comes up with you have a right to marriage. You have a right to be able to, well, kill unborn children if you want, which is really a violation of your inalienable right, that very first one, which is life. See, the real question that we have to ask ourselves, why is it that the left always define a right based upon their ideological agenda? The Second Amendment is not a right to them. And even your First Amendment, freedom of religion, well, to them you have a freedom of worship. But if it comes up against their ideological agenda, it's not a right. You look at freedom of speech. Well, it's more so freedom of accepted speech, the accepted speech of the left. But if it is something that they hold near and dear to their ideological agenda, such as nationalizing the control of our healthcare system, then it's all of a sudden a right. I want you to look up H.R. 676, which is the Medicare for All piece of legislation that is going to be introduced in the House of Representatives. One of the key proponents to this H.R. 676, Medicare for All, is that all private health insurance will be declared illegal. In other words, you will be mandated to be on a government system. If there's anything that is un-American, to me unconstitutional, it's taking away our free ability to choose and decide what is best for us, and especially our bodies. When I think about the progressive socialist left, I'm always reminded about this maxim that came from the Greek invasion of Troy. That incredible sentence that said, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts." See, here you have the left, as always, coming up with another Trojan horse. They're going to give you something for free, healthcare. It's the right that you have, healthcare. Our rights are clearly stated in the Declaration, not being endowed to us from the left, but from our Creator. And of these, of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The left cannot guarantee our happiness, and the left certainly cannot mandate our choices for our health care.